Someday we're going to get that right.
Someday,
We're going to get it right. Enduring Guitar Works Backstage, a guided look at the life experiences and ways and means of the guitarist journey.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right.
It is October, 4th? Yeah, it's the 4th.
It's the 4th.
It's the 4th.
It's the 4th. And the only reason I know that is because I know
it.
at the 18th we have more guests, and 18 minus 14 is not 3. The number of the counting shall be 3.
No more.
But this show
no less.
Will be 4. So
October 4. 10-4, good buddy.
It's going to be that kind of a show.
It's that kind of a show. I'm not even drinking tonight.
Well, I'll drink for both of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
That works.
Yeah. I showed up to help a buddy move the other day, and I thought it was a little weird to be drinking at 9 in the morning, but somebody showed up with High Life!
The champagne beers.
Do you remember that was the half-second Super Bowl commercial, like 2009 or something? Everyone made a big deal about.
I thought that was the Bon Marche's candies.
The Francos?
Yeah. Franco. Wow!
Okay, well, maybe they were like competing for who could have the shortest commercial.
They might have been.
But there was a one year where just like, I don't know, it was like Snickers, like somewhere between a Snickers commercial and a Kia commercial. They went, High Life! And they were done. It was boom, boom, boom. Anyway, so we brought the High Life on board.
Yeah.
Which, for the record, I just opened. But we were going to have guests tonight.
We
had to move some things around. Are we going to find out where this... Okay, keep it between the white screens.
Between.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go.
It's better.
I'm more comfortable now.
So this is going to be more of a just kind of a BS session. This is going to actually be a real truthful look to sometimes the unexpected life and experiences of the guitarist journey. We had a guest scheduled for tonight who we're actually going to move out to October 18th just to accommodate. They actually had band work to do, which I respect.
It's respectable.
If it comes down to an interview or actually working with your band so that your band is top notch, I'm going to choose the band every time.
Yeah. For sure.
So yeah, 2 weeks, October 18th, we will have we'll have Wes from the Olympia Guitar Company. He's based out of Tumwater, Washington, or Olympia, Washington. But if you're anywhere near Olympia,
area,
yeah, the Western Tri-Cities,
yeah,
Tri-City West,
yeah,
the
real Tri-Cities,
the Triburbia. That's what we call it, Triburbia.
Triburbia, that works. Coined a new phrase.
You heard it here first, folks.
That's his.
Triburbia.
Give him the credit for that.
So yeah, he'll be on next 2 weeks. In 2 weeks.
Yes.
We'll do that.
Next episode.
So tonight we're just gonna kind of be here for anyone that wants to chat and talk about our weeks. And
you're hanging with us, the boys.
Yeah, hanging with the boys. That's what we called it.
That's what you called it.
So you had a good weekend.
I had,
sort of a good weekend.
Saturday was good.
Saturday was good.
Kind of not for me, but I don't know what it was. But Saturday I got to go up to White Center. Went to City Recon, which was one of the coolest damn things because it was at the Southgate roller rink.
Okay.
In White Center. So if you don't know, it's a roller skating arena. Got a bar. So they had a bar stage, and then they had a stage set up in the middle of the roller rink.
Really? Okay.
And you could rent skates and go skating around. There's people skating down the parking lot, up and down the ramps, and around the bands as they're playing in the main stage. It was really, really a lot of fun. I was actually up there with my brother's band, Bacchus. They got back together, and it was their first show back together in 10 years. 10 and a half years maybe.
Yeah.
So I was helping them run their merch booth, which was really cool for me to be able to hang out with members of other bands. I mean, a lot of them didn't have their own merch people. Mm-hmm. So, on one side of me, I had Gaytheist and Year of the Cobra. On the other side of me, I had Multicult from Baltimore and Red Fang, which Red Fang got me some new digs. They were the headliners and killed it, as they do. Bacchus played the bar and had a really good set. And then Sunday I was down for the count. I had migraine and just not feeling good all day long. So I ended up not going to Tacoma for the Bacchus show in Tacoma to help him sell merch there because I just was feeling like shit. But yeah, I had a good time.
But you're here. You rallied.
Rallied.
You know, a couple days later.
Puke and rally.
Here you are on Tuesday. We've got a bucket behind the sofa.
No, I'm okay. I've had some drugs. Not those kind of drugs. Over-the-counter drugs.
You sound like you had a cool conversation with one of the members of Red Fang that just sort of illustrates, once again, how quickly time moves by. You know,
yeah.
What one person interpreted as 5 years was more like,
it was like
11 or 12.
11 years. Yeah, they came up to me and were like, man, we played with Bacchus like, 6-7 years ago? I was like, well, let's see. The last time I talked to you was in 2011, and you played with them before that. I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
So it's funny how time flies. It really is.
Mm-hmm. Anything else? Red Fang.
Not really. Red Fang was a lot of
City
fun.
Recon.
Red City Recon. Check it out. This was like the 10th annual.
Yeah.
Red City Recon, so it happens every year. You get a chance to check it out. I mean, killer lineups every year.
Yeah.
Great bands, great people, a lot of fun.
I can't wait for the time where these are more like we stop moving things to virtual events, and it like does come back to be like, I guess I can't wait for. I'm just pleased in seeing this again, as we really start to open back up to people being comfortable. I know we've been open up for a while, but we hear conversations about the NAMM show and like our virtual shows the future, our in-person shows the future. What are we doing? And I think that obviously it's going to be sort of a hybrid model. I don't want to get out of saying hybrid model, but a combined thing. But it's really encouraging to me every time I see groups of people together again to celebrate music and to celebrate the arts, and each time we walk into a venue like that, we are less weirded out by it. Like walking into the Kent Commons a couple weeks back to go see the Seattle Guitar Show. It was the first time I had been out in a while where I actually walked into the building and didn't have that like PTSD reaction to what's been trained into us since, March of 2020. Like, are we doing this? Are we doing this?
Mind adjacent saying in person is something we've all sorely missed. Yes, it is. And I will say on Saturday I did have a little bit of anxiety.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not speaking for everybody, but speaking for me. But...
Yeah, I mean it was really cool to be there, be around people again, to enjoy the music and do what we're used to doing. Mm-hmm. And if you're in Olympia, this weekend is Arts Walk. By the way, and
so it is still going on. I hadn't seen any advertising for Arts Walk.
So I know that they're doing live in front of Capital City Guitars.
Okay,
Bacchus is going to play there, and then Bacchus is also playing a 4-band bill at McCoy's on Friday night. So come out and check that out too if you're in the Olympia area.
I know that. I don't know if you will be, but I'll be go down there at least one of those days and hand it out and wanting to talk about Endorian Guitar Works. If you see me wearing one of these hats, I'm the tall, that dude that you see right now.
That dude.
And I look the same from the back. Just ugly from both directions. But either a big white ball cap or a black one, and I'll talk EGW all day with you and how we can help.
Yeah, and I'll be running the merch booth again for Bacchus at McCoy's on Friday night. They're playing with Miko de Noche, who also played Rat City Recon.
Mm-hmm.
They're another band that hasn't played together for a while, and they're kind of reunion. Ocosta from Port Angeles, which is our friend John's band, and Electric Sweats, an Olympia punk rock band. So it should be a fun
Which is not the same as Gold Sweats, which is the band that has the
dudes
the
from
violin.
Miko de Noche.
Yeah.
So Miko de Noche is right now is kind of the Gold Sweats, and Miko guys put together their Miko the Big Band is what they're calling it now.
Yeah.
Miko de Noche, the big band.
Right on.
But it should be good times. So Arts Walk.
Very cool.
I'm not sure about everything else that normally goes on in Arts Walk.
Yeah.
What the plan is, but Arts Walk is happening.
I thought they had canceled it because because I just haven't seen any advertising for it, and that's my bad. But it's usually the same weekend as There's the Shelton, Washington Oyster Fest, which was this last weekend. So when I heard that was happening, I was like, well, we were downstairs. We were downtown Olympia. I'm looking around, going, I don't see any signs of Arts Walk, but that's awesome.
Yeah, so I think it's first weekend in October, always usually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the first weekend in April for the spring.
Okay. That could just be me being dumb and forgetting which weekends things are on.
I don't know. I haven't seen any advertisement really for anything else either for it. I just know that Bacchus is playing McCoy's because it's my brother, mm-hmm. and they're supposed to play in front of Capital City Guitars as well. So we'll see if that happens.
You know what I meant to get out and see last Saturday, and I truly was going to go try and check it out, but Low Wires and the Dead Hollows, and so Low Wires is a local band, and the singer and sax player was the owner of RMCC, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
He and his wife.
But very, very killer rock band from Seattle that the frontman plays a sax, which is fantastic. And I think if you go back through some of our video archives, we were down at Love Oli Fest, and I took some live video of them. And then Dead Hollows, if you remember, Todd was one of our guests a couple shows back from Dead Hollows. And they were playing down at McCoy's. And I absolutely intended on going down there and supporting. And this is my big but my 14-year-old went to homecoming this Saturday. And
time flies.
Dad got recruited to do the photography. And by the time we got done with all that, I didn't have any more downtown in me.
I can understand that. Well, what's cool is like the night before that was Power Castle, also at McCoy's. Mm-hmm. So I mean, there's a lot of shows that are starting to happen, more and more, really good shows. So keep your eyes out. I mean,
yeah,
check them out. I know Los Ocupados been playing a lot.
They have been playing a lot.
If you remember, they were our first guest act that we had on our show.
Yeah.
They've been playing a lot, so go out and check them out as well. So there's a lot of good stuff.
They're a super interesting group of people as a collective and individually as well. Mm-hmm. Having got to know all of them from the show, we developed online relationships and followed each other on Facebook and whatever. And like Tad is doing interesting things, Madi is doing interesting things. Brad did the CNC work for this guy. I had no idea he even did CNC work, and when I was like putting feelers out for I need to do this, he jumped right on. It's like, hey, how can I help? And just a great group of individuals. Support that band if you can. If you like ska, if you don't like ska, just be nice.
Support them anyway.
Support them anyway. Ska's rad.
I saw a thing today I thought was funny. It was about ska, and they're like, "What do they even know? Does this person even know what ska is? I mean, isn't that where they put horns over good punk rock?" I thought that was kind of cute.
That was funny. I was having a conversation with somebody this week because of the Mariners having their recent run of success. Yeah. And, it's interesting because I have, when I think about, local Seattle sports success, you can't have that conversation without having the bandwagon conversation, like every time the Seahawks come up, are you a bandwagon fan? Are you an actual fan? And I will freely admit that I'm not even a bandwagon fan. I just enjoy chips and beer, and usually on a Sunday, that's what everyone's doing. So that's what I do. I support them just as much when they're winning as I do when they're losing, which is not much. But
me on the other hand,
but
the
good for them.
Seahawks and the Mariners are my teams.
But the Mariners,
do or die.
Yeah, like when I was a kid, so like the days of Edgar and Griffey Jr. and
Bone, Jay Buhner.
Thank you, Jay Buhner. That was my day, and I don't know why we're talking about sports on a music show. I'm going to bring it back to.
Life.
But I stopped
experiences, right?
I stopped but I stopped paying attention to the Mariners, not because I didn't give a shit anymore. It was just kind of moved into a different phase. When I was a kid, we played baseball. And then I became more of a musician and just didn't really pay attention in their success. Like I don't think I hardly watched any of like Ichiro's legacy years. Yeah, no,
really?
It was weird. Like I knew who he was, but I just didn't watch. And I was in that game where like Griffey made that You know, like the one where the Kingdom almost fell down.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I was at that game. Like,
Nice.
my dad and I got on TV briefly.
Nice.
And then it was just, we didn't really pay
The,
attention.
the infamous ceiling tiles.
Yeah.
Luckily, they had that section closed off.
Yeah. I always thought we were going to get taken out in the... Anyway, no, I was having this conversation with a buddy. I think it was when we were moving my other buddy this weekend when he was moving houses. We were talking about the Kingdom versus Safeco. And I remembered that, you know, I spent my youth in the Kingdom. And I think I've been into the new the new stadium. The stadium that was being built in, like, 1997 is when they broke ground or something, right?
The new stadium is almost as old as we are now.
But I remember being at that Warp Tour when the year, like
in
the
North
first year,
lot.
in the North Lot outside the Kingdom before it was taken down, as the new stadium was going up, watching Less Than Jake.
Yeah.
And, you know, when ska absolutely had a huge presence no matter where you were regionally.
I remember being at that Warped Tour too.
You were there too?
Yeah. I was at the South Lot the year before, I think. The North Lot that year. They were in the Gorge a couple years before that, and then after it. I went to like 5 Warped Tours in a row. I remember being at the North Lot was when like Eminem came out with Ice-T.
Yeah.
And it was funny. I was standing.
So that sounds familiar. I think we talked about that at a previous show.
I was standing in the crowd, and these chicks were like, "Who the hell is this guy?" And he had just gone through his spiel, and I was about to tell him that's Ice motherfucking T, bitch, because he did this whole thing like I am no longer Ice-T. I am no longer Ice motherfucking T. My name is Ice motherfucking T, bitch. And when these two girls in front of me were like, "Who's this guy?" I was just like, maybe I shouldn't.
Maybe you should. Yeah.
I held my tongue, but I really wanted to.
Oh, no, I remember seeing the Deftones and Less Than Jake, and I was, man, you can't even say front row because it was just one giant pit. Rancid,
Reverend Horton Heat was on the same stage.
I spent the entire time like shielding the folks that I was like the big kid and everyone else was tiny, and we were pressed up against that security rail. And I remember coming home and taking off my shirt and looking in the mirror, and I had a bruise, like a lateral bruise across my torso from the sheer pressure of being pushed up against the security rail. We actually had one of our crew was so small, like she was like, "I'm gonna die," and we like passed her out to security so that I'll be over there. And
so we were in the back corner, I think, during the Rancid set. And we were kind of maybe between stages because NoFX played that year too.
Yes.
NoFX and Rancid played back to back, and they also had punk rock karaoke with
Did they?
Melvin. Yeah, because people were throwing lemons from the lemonades at him. This one dude was so terrible, people started throwing their lemons out of their lemonade cups and hit Melvin from NoFX, Eric Melvin, in the face while he's playing guitar. And so he's like, "No, okay, I'm done." And he kicked the guy off the stage because he was so terrible. He's like, I can't handle this anymore. I got hit with a lemon. Who gets hit with a lemon? And punk rock karaoke at that time, I think that was the original iteration of it. Eric Melvin, there's dudes from Pennywise and Bad Religion in the group as well. Yeah, there have been different members since then. Kind of like Me First and the Gimme Gimmes kind of has a rotating membership, except for Spike. Yeah, from the Swinging Utters. He's the guy that's always in it. But
man, that's cool. Good memories.
It's good, great memories.
Totally different time.
Funny how we didn't know each other, but we were there.
I've had that experience with several folks that I've like. Yeah. Everyone was there. Yeah, everyone was there. Of course. At that show. Yeah,
of course.
And they started doing it at the Gorge, but I don't know.
I spent plenty of years. I remember one year my head was in a garbage can for half the show because it got so messed up. But it was cool because like I'm puking in the garbage can and people coming up, "Oh, that's rock and roll," and I was like, "Blah, blah, blah."
So if you're watching, so now I'm just, my head is in show mode, and like, what's the coolest show you've seen, and what are the coolest stunts that you've seen on the show stage that really didn't have anything to do with the music being played? And I'll go first. So Warped Tour 2004 at the Gorge. Story of the Year and Yellow Card are playing. And I know that's not really your thing. It's not really my thing anymore either, but I think it was the drummer of Story of the Year is a hell of a BMX biker. And so he gets off his drum throne, goes off stage, and I don't remember who it was, but somebody else goes and takes the drums. The band plays the set, and he just does stunts all over the stage the whole time on the BMX bike.
Nice.
The entire time they finish off the rest of the set. And like I don't ride BMX. I don't know what the stunts are called, but it's impressive. It's like, hopping up on the wheel, walking the thing across the stage,
tail whips and
yeah,
shit.
tail whips and shit. And it was that, and then like watching I don't know if anyone's seen Godsmack play. I saw Godsmack play at Crew Fest in 2009. And then that was where Sully gets his own drum set and comes out with the drummer, and then they both go up on the risers, and the drum sets are like spinning at like 45-degree angles on stage, and they're like doing drum battles. You've seen stuff like that?
I've just seen Tommy Lee and his spinning drum
Godsmack
kit.
and several other bands opened for Crew, and then Crew played 2 sets. They played a regular set, and then they played the entire Dr. Feelgood album. Like this fucking thing, this concert went to like 1 a.m.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of good stunts at some shows. My brother and I went to the Monsters of Rock show, probably 2004. So it was Anthrax, Megadeth, and Motley Crue.
Yeah.
And of course, you see Motley Crue, you're going to see the drum kit.
Yeah.
The Tommy Lee drum kit. As it's
Hopefully that's all you see of Tommy Lee.
The arms come out and kind of go over the crowd a little bit, and it spins.
Yep.
Every time I see Reverend Horton Heat play, I love watching their bass player because he jumps on the bass and he's standing on it sideways and playing it.
Yeah. That's how I feel about watching Ty Zamora play bass. Yeah.
Gosh, what else? I've seen some other ones. I mean, Slipknot's I'm not a huge fan of Slipknot, but their stage show is phenomenal, and they got lots of just bullshit going on all over the stage with the drummer dudes and whatnot. You got like, they're almost like the metal version of the Bindy Bitey Boss Tones with their little dancing guy that, the guy that just dances, like Slipknot.
Yeah, I haven't seen Slipknot live.
I've seen them live once. It was unintentional. I went to go see Mastodon. Slipknot was headlining, so we stuck around for a little while.
That's like the time I accidentally saw Buck Cherry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to see Avenged Sevenfold and Papa Roach. I'll cop to that. And Buck Cherry was headlining.
I'm like, okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, went to see Slayer and caught. What were their names? They were an Australian band.
Silverchair?
No.
Of course I said Silverchair. Saw them play.
I can see the album in my mind. The brain with the stem was the album cover at the time. Their singer ended up dying, which I know, like all the singers in heavy metal seem to be dying at some point. Fear Factory.
Right.
Fear Factory.
It's been a while.
Yeah. Slayer was much better.
Mm-hmm.
That was at the Paramount too. Took out all the seats. Everything was just open. It was really cool.
There's so many good shows at the Paramount. Just missed Joe Satriani at the Moore.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Another good place is the Roseland down in Portland, and I saw Nashville Pussy play there once. Corey Parks, their bass player, former bass player now, I believe. Her thing was spitting fire.
Yeah?
So I had fire up over my head because I was right underneath her.
Holy crap.
She's like Amazon, just tall, sexy. And there was an article, I don't remember if it was in Rolling Stone or maybe it was in Gearhead magazine or something. Anyway, talking about she had a conversation with Gene Simmons because he had seen them play and saw her spitting fire, and he's like, do you put gel in your hair or do you just slick it back with water or whatever? And she's like, so that it doesn't catch fire, because he does that.
Yeah,
he's got all that big hair and doesn't want to catch fire. She's like, you're a pussy, I don't put anything in my hair. This is pretty awesome.
Crazy.
She was badass.
Yeah. What else is going on?
I don't know.
It's been a weird week. I was all prepared to do an interview.
Yeah,
We should talk.
it's cool. We're doing all right, I think.
We are doing all right.
We're half an hour in, and we filled some air and
It's true.
kind of relaxing into this episode. So if anybody's still watching, send some comments, get some chat. Let's hear about your favorite shows and stunts that have happened on stage that may or may not be music related. Iron Maiden's another one. Guitar players always do crazy guitar tricks.
Yeah.
It's always good.
Yeah.
Anybody else seen that? Iron Maiden.
Don't do that guitar trick with this thing. That'll knock you out.
No, yeah, that'll knock you out.
Did we show this on the show yet?
I
can't remember.
I don't know if you showed it on the show yet. It's so damn heavy.
It is.
Do you need some help?
So, yeah, I need some help. So, you've probably seen this on Instagram, right? This was the prototype model. It's huge, right? Yeah, This is the prototype model of the guitar I just went production with. And if you've been following, you see that I finished the first production model of the guitar and had it sold in 36 hours?
Something like that. Very quickly.
And I don't have any delusions that it's always going to be that fast. But holy shit, that was a real experience, I was actually sitting right here when dude was trying it out. Yeah, well, I was sitting here and he was sitting there and playing it, and for a second I lost myself in the moment of watching the guitar be played.
Man, it's got to be surreal.
It was super surreal. We've talked all about the whole thing. We started the backstage concept about building people up and leveling up, and I think even before we called it a podcast, I had this idea that I wanted to do this coaching. And that really, I don't think I was prepared to be a coach of any sort, but I was all gung-ho about helping people achieve that next place where they wanted to go, because that's exactly where I was in that moment. And there's this imposter syndrome that goes with it. And you can do, and you can do, and you can do, and you can do. But until that moment comes where everything is legitimized. And when it comes to guitar building, for me, that was the moment I accepted myself as I can do this, was the second that somebody said, I want what you made. And God, I have so much to learn from so many great people that are also doing this. And I'm finding that what's so incredibly cool about building guitars is that the people that are also building guitars are so eager to bring you into the fold and make you part of the club. It's not a secret society. It's just that you kind of have to prove yourself by just saying you're going to do it, and you're not going to come into it cocky. You're just going to come in and say, I'm going to start. Where are you going to start from? Well, whatever your first results are, that's going to be your start.
Well, it seems like you're on the right path. I mean, you got that first production guitar is already out there.
Yeah.
You've got some other production models that are already
I've got two orders I've got two custom, they're all custom. They're all made to order, but I've got two that are actually commissioned pieces. One is for actually Liam Cahill, who we had on the show.
Right.
Actually making him a thin line derivative, right? And then go follow Aaron Crawford you follow him anyway, but if you're into country especially, he is a country rock artist from the Seattle area who has been building his career for the better part of 10 years, and super proud to have been watching his journey. And
well, you've worked with him.
I've worked with, in 2013 he needed someone to fill in on bass, and actually we're so far away from 2013 now, I can't remember if it was a temporary thing or if it was just whatever it turned into. For whatever reason, I toured for I think 4 or 5 shows, and then we just kind of did our own thing. But we stayed in touch. Ooh,
mind adjacent, that validation from people means everything.
Yeah,
realizing you did something right. It takes a long time to get there in any field. Be proud of yourself.
And thank you. And I got the same kind of had the same conversation with Bill Leach of Leach Built Guitars. He, and when I talk about he was one of the first people to really to welcome me in. You know, I was really nervous to show him this one actually in particular. Well, first of all, I was worried about the liability of you might break your back holding this thing.
Yeah.
But then I was like, you know, like I came here for one reason. I would actually had not planned on going to the Seattle Guitar Show. I had planned on going into my workshop and doing some finishing work. And while I was sitting, like the day before, and while I was sitting there doing that finishing work, I realized that I was being stupid and that I shouldn't worry about getting this guitar, this proof of concept guitar, to 100%. I needed to get it to the show the next day, but I hadn't bought an exhibitor's booth or anything. And I also didn't know if that'd be poor form. So I called up John Beeson of Wood Spirit, and I said, would this be bad form if I brought this into the show? He said, hell no, bring it. I want to see it. Okay. So
and John, he's so cool about that.
John is so cool. Go back and watch that episode.
Such a great guy.
Such a great guy. He has come down to Olympia several times because he's working on buildings down in Tumwater. And like, okay, we'll meet in the morning. I figure we'll meet at like 10. No, I get a text at 6:30 in the morning. He's already on the job site. I'm like, all right, I'm up. I got the coffee. Come on over. And such a good dude. But I walk in there. I head over to John's booth, and I've got this thing in a Hagstrom case because that's the only case that will actually hold this thing. And I open it up, and John, and,
yeah, my back. Oh,
and he checks it out, and we talk about it for a little bit, and discuss aspects and like what's working, what's not working. And he says, "Go take it over to Bill." And so I make the awkward walk over to Bill and try to figure out how do I start this conversation. I'm not really a person who wants to start a conversation from a please do this for me thing.
Hey Bill, play this.
And I think I just lucked out in this department that he was playing a lap steel guitar that he had built that I forgot that I was holding my guitar, and I instantly like was completely sucked into like how well he was playing this lap steel. I've never seen anyone actually play a lap steel in person. Like when I was playing with Aaron, we had a dude who was playing a pedal steel, but I've never seen similar, but a little different. Yeah. And we started talking about that, and it just like naturally evolved to this point in the conversation where I was handing him this guitar, and the coolest thing in the world was that he played it for like 25 minutes, and I don't know, that was like the first moment where I was like, this is validating. He's not just giving me 30 seconds and being polite. He's truly interested in this. And I was like, okay, well, now tell me all the other things. Like, tell me what's wrong.
Yeah.
And
give me feedback.
Yeah, and give me actual feedback on this thing. And he did it in a very graceful way. And he didn't hold back. Yeah, he told me like, this is what you're doing right, and this is what I would be looking for. Wait, obviously on the first thing, but we knew. I knew from the beginning.
Well, yeah, when you
that
got
this was going to be heavy. Oh yeah. But never was it like this experience of this is horrible. I'm getting my ass kicked. This sucks. And that doesn't mean that I walked in there and I was doing everything perfect. That means that I walked in there and I was schooled in a very positive manner. And came back from that day just realizing that I still don't know what the future holds, but I knew that I feel very comfortable here and safe, if you will, just giving 100% and doing the best that I can. And the market will judge me. The market will judge me.
What was one of the things that he suggested for this
one of the first things that he didn't tell me first off, but I knew was happening because I knew it before I went up there, is that he was playing it, but he was staying kind of like third position and higher. And I knew that was because the nut was cut a little high. And if he played any lower than that, we were going to have pitch issues, because when you push down, you're going to pull the note sharp. And that was, so he said, yeah, he needs a little bit of a better setup on the nut. And I was like, cool. I knew this because I didn't have time to get to that step the day before. And I was like, cool. I know. And we talked about overall sizing, and we talked about weight and materials and just different ideas. And we went back to the drawing board, and I worked with Brad, and said, okay, this is the feedback. This is what I want to try to do. So we took about 3/4 of an inch off the body all the way around, and then chose different wood, obviously. And the funny story about using this is African Padouk. So African Padouk.
Yeah.
I don't know what it weighs per board foot. This is not stained in any way. It's not finished. It's not oiled. This is like I took this all the way to like 1,000 grit sandpaper and did a rough job so that it was pleasing to the touch when somebody picked it up. Mm-hmm. This is what this wood looks like, and
yeah, that's one of the biggest things to me, that just the bright orange of it just looks unnatural, but it's completely natural.
The reason I picked this wood up was because when I came back from Brad's house, I had my middle daughter with me, my 6-year-old, and we were kind of making a day of it, and we went over to Brad's house, and he showed me like his CNC setup and everything, and I was so jazzed, and I had that first template for the first model. I went right over to Hardell's Building Supply in West Olympia, and walked in there with this template. And the manager of the store says, "What can I do for you?" And I said, "Well, I need a piece of wood that I don't need to join, because I don't really want to wait. I'm hoping to find something that's a one piece that I can cut this body out of today." Obviously gives me that. I don't think you're going to find that, but our exotic wood section is right over there, and give us a holler if you find something you're interested in. And there was one piece of lumber back there that fit the bill, and it was this. And the deal there is that you have to buy a certain amount. You can't leave the store with less than, if you're going to take some off a board, you can't leave the store with less than 48 inches. And as circumstances dictated, I came home with a very large piece, just over 5 foot long, of Padouk.
Yeah, it was like enough to do like 3 bodies.
It was enough to do 4. I thought it was enough to do 3, and then the way I fit them in there, I actually had 4 sketched out.
Wow.
Yeah, but I couldn't. I had to like interlace them. So like the first cut, I had to actually hit it with a jigsaw so like they could be kind of fed into each other.
Right.
And so I would get four bodies out of this thing. And I was just really, really hopeful that the sheer weight of the giant plank was what was intimidating, and that it would be lighter when I shaved it down to a guitar, to one blank. And then I was immediately hoping that it would be lighter when I cut the shape of the guitar out of it. And then I was hoping that it would be lighter when I carved the comfort cut and the belly pan. And then I was hoping it would be lighter when I cut out the electronics cavity and the pickup cavities. And it's just a damn heavy guitar. So
it's just the wood you chose.
That's why. It's just the wood I chose. And no, there's no way I'm selling this. I mean, no one's going to want it, but this, like, it's actually one of my favorite guitars to play. This is what I teach my lessons on.
Nice.
Because it plays great. So, I came home and the very next day did the, set the nut correctly, 10 minutes, and it plays perfectly. And
yeah. And then you got your piece of ash.
Yeah, got my piece. Got a nice piece of ash.
Nice piece of ash for the next guitar, and resized the blank.
Yeah, and it was funny because I was tired. I was really excited to get started on the next guitar, but I was also, in a weird way, kind of looking for a reason to delay myself. And the ash showed up, and for whatever stupid reason, my mind went right to the fact that I don't have a good cutting board. And I was like, I could make that a really nice chopping block. And my buddy Mark, who also builds Telecasters, he's like, pull your head out of your ash and make that a guitar. Which was good advice. Which was really good advice. About the same time, Brad had... I'm pretty sure Brad's been reading my mind the entire time. He really put himself to task, helping me out with this. And I paid him, like, don't get me wrong. But like, he always came through faster than I needed him to, because I think he knows how important this is to me. and he said like, I'll have this template ready next week, and like the next day he was calling me like, hey, it's done. I'm like, phew. So I came over and got it, and immediately started working on it. And where it took me almost like a solid 2 days to carve this to like a rough, I had the other body like all but fine sanded, like routed everything. Like just ash is just so much easier to work with.
I would imagine.
Like the body was done, if you will, in half a day. In 4 hours, it was ready for aligning and the fitment before finalizing the body elements. Yeah. So and
yeah. So it took longer to get the stain to dry and the poly on it. And everything than it did.
Yeah, it did.
To actually cut the damn.
And then I started looking back. Yeah. So I mean, ultimately, I finished that one, and I really don't know. A good deal of learning how to do this correctly is really figuring out your workflows. And don't get me wrong, I don't mean that's the only thing, but like figuring out your workflows, figuring out your procurement. If you're not operating with a lot of capital, you've got to figure out what is the quickest way to source the materials when you need the materials if you're not going to buy them all ahead of time. And with made to order stuff, you don't want to just have it all sitting there. You want a good supply of like jacks and pots and wires and capacitors and diodes and all that kind of stuff. But like, you don't want a stash of Floyd Roses and tunamatics sitting around because you don't know when you're going to use them.
Right.
You
might want to have, some wood blanks laying around, but different kinds. Right?
That's what I figured out that I'm working into the workflow. I'm like, I'm going to batch these so I can, I also have a very small shop, and it's like you move into sawdust mode and you don't really want to be having to clean up all the time so that you can go and do electronics mode. I want to take all my soldering station and everything and put those and drape a thing over it so that I can make a mess and clean it up and then restage it for finishing and restage it for electronics work.
So you go through, maybe make several bodies at once and then go and do the wiring on them. And then
like I'm getting, I think late this week or early next week, I'm picking up 5 more blanks. One of them is going to be for a guitar for me that's not going to sell, not because I need another guitar, but because I need one that I can take around town that I can play
something
it up
a little more functional.
So that I can actually demo this is how it'll play, but I want a version of what I just sold that I can take around and let people play, because I don't have a storefront, so I've got to be able to be mobile. And then Aaron's guitar, and then 3 more that I'll just have ready to go. And then I've got 2 more guitars coming back from the joint venture that we haven't announced yet. So I'll have 7 or 8 guitars to be working on.
Right, yeah, and some of those are your body. Some of them are the fender bender. 2 of
them are S-type guitars, and 5 of them will be iterations of this.
And then what are you calling the body style again?
This is it's a whiskey theme. So this particular body style is the Rye 99 under the Kiss of Whiskey line of guitars. And the last one, go check it out on Instagram, was the what I call the barrel burst finished light relic.
It's just sweet. I mean, the way that the grain just popped.
It was fun.
Out of there, but it's still real dark.
Yeah. And that was one of those ones where, where there was some serendipitous artistic modifications that went along. Like, I actually planned for that to be, like, I knew that urethane yellows a little bit, unless you get a really clear urethane. I didn't think it was going to yellow as much as it did, but really what it did is it brought out golds. And so I was going to be doing a black and gray theme and going with either black or chrome buckers. But once I started putting the urethane on, like, my mind just shifted. I was like, no, we're going black and gold on this. And I never would have conceptualized that aesthetic independently. That was absolutely a result of learn from your mistakes, but also embrace some of them, because some of your mistakes are absolutely supposed to be that way.
Yeah. The whole, some of the best things happen on accident.
Yeah.
Some of the best discoveries in science happened on accident, and so sometimes some of the best things in your guitar building are going to happen on accident.
But yeah, I think that guitar was built in about a week and a half, and I think probably 4 days of that or so were actually like waiting for parts to show up. But I set the clock on these things, like if I know that I'm like, this was a wipe on poly. So I was, I had the timer set. So every 4 hours I was running down there to do a new coat, and, how long until I can buff it, it says,
Mm-hmm.
how long until absolutely the whole thing is staged and surgical,
Yeah. Well, and that's good that you're doing that, and eventually maybe you'll have something
Yeah.
that you can actually work on in the same space while that's
Yeah.
curing or whatever, like do some wiring while it's curing
Yeah.
up or something,
Yeah.
as you build multiples at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully, like you were saying, maybe get an apprentice at some point to do the sanding and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. But
the other crazy thing about this, and I had a couple conversations this week with not musicians, but folks that have also opened up like other small businesses. We have a mutual friend that opened up a bakery.
mm-hmm.
And for the sake of her relative anonymity, because I don't know if she wants to be named, we had that conversation about when you start providing a service, a product or a service, there's this, many folks will feel the need to just instantly offer a discount, either to friends or just because when somebody asks how much something costs, you can't actually believe that you've taken the steps to put yourself in a market where you're allowed to charge what your product is worth.
Right. It's hard to figure
and
out
I
worth too.
did
Sometimes.
that all the time when I really shittily ran a photography business, because I worked myself out of business, because every time somebody came to me with interest, I was so happy that someone was even talking to me that I was eager to cut my prices just so they would hire me. And you burn yourself at the stake before you even had a chance to try. And, so she's making cakes and cookies and all that cool stuff. And she has her prices. And I had actually purchased a cake from her for my mother-in-law's birthday. And she's like, it's still really hard to tell people this is how much the cake costs.
Right.
And I was like, I thought back to our early marketing conversations when she was about to launch, about like, it's not just a cake. It's an experience. Just like a tattoo is not just a sketch. It's a lifelong piece of art.
Right.
If you want a $450 or a $600 guitar, then you're going to walk into Guitar Center and go buy one that came off a CNC and was set up by someone, like it's an assembly line guitar. And that doesn't mean they don't play well, but if you're making hand-built guitars, don't think that your market is the person who's walking into Guitar Center to buy a $600 guitar. If somebody is talking to you about buying a hand-built guitar, then you should have no problem listing it for what it's worth. And I listed, I knew that guitar, that specific guitar, and I'm just being transparent and telling the fucking world, I had about $700 worth of parts into that build. And I had about 25 hours into that build. And so I had no problem setting the price tag at $2,000. And honestly, I hadn't even listed it for sale yet. Someone was interested in playing it. And he says, I will give you $1,000 for this right now. And I said, I would love for you to take this guitar home right now, but I'm actually going to list it for this. And that was like, I don't know if it was the stomach dropping moment or the stomach or, in your throat moment, or a little bit of both, kind of when you get thrown over the Ferris wheel a little too fast, but that's exactly what it felt like. Cause that was another one of those moments where it's like, no, I'm here. I'm playing in this game now.
Right.
And
but again, you're getting the experience. So if he has any issues with the guitar,
right.
Especially, like you were saying, it's been a guitar for all of 3 days, right?
But once it has tension on it for more than 72, bring it back in a month, bring it back in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whenever it takes. We're gonna do the setups.
There's still gonna be setups. There's still gonna be dialing in, and that's part of that experience of buying a custom guitar.
Yeah. Anything you need, anything that guitar needs for a year, I'm just going to do it for you.
Right.
But the point is that like knowing your value, knowing that what you did, what you created, and what someone else wants, and standing there when someone says, how much does it cost? This is what it costs.
It's the same thing.
And
just making music,
and let
too,
them make
right?
the determination as to whether or not
Right.
let them make the determination as to whether or not they are your market.
Right. Do I want to buy that?
Do I want to buy this?
It's the same thing when you're making music, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna sell my CD for $10. I'm gonna sell my album on vinyl for 20.
Yeah.
I mean, those are going rates. It's up to the buyer to buy it.
Yeah.
And if they don't buy it, okay, on
Yeah.
to the next thing. But this is my price.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just, it's, and again, I'm going to go back to something I said about a half an hour ago, and it's like, there's so much to learn. There is so much to do better. There is so much to learn. There's so many things to learn differently.
Right. This is your
There
first
are
production guitar.
First production guitar. And not the first guitar that I've built, but the first one
Right.
that I put out there and said, this is for sale. And,
Right. I mean, we got
well, that one will be for sale too.
that one.
There's one upstairs. There's this one.
Yeah.
There's that one. There's a few that like predate even our friendship.
Right, right.
Like, I've been doing this for a while. I lost myself. Oh yeah. It's just like, this is just a conversation where, as you enter the world, as you try to do new things and say like, can I do it? Am I worth it? Do I provide something that somebody else wants? It's like, you are never going to know unless you just do it.
Well, and so viewers, mine to Jason's been chatting a little
Yeah.
bit with us. Is there anything that you guys want to chime in on? What have you done, either musically or artistically, that's kind of been up that same alley, where you've had that challenge of finding the value and getting the validation back from others and peers like this? I mean, it's an interesting conversation. I think it spans from building to making music to anything like that. It's all the same kind of a challenge. That how do you tell people, especially maybe that you care about, that want something for free sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, this is what it costs.
Yeah.
This is the price. This is the value that I've set on it, and either you want it or you don't.
Yeah. 100%.
So
Yeah, well, that, and so like steering away from the whole making guitar conversation, we talked about some funny repairs that have come this way. Like one was an acoustic guitar that came to me from a person who's it belonged to a family member, and this person's children had broken it.
right.
And so the repair came to me as I know nothing about guitars, but it's broken. Well, does the owner know the guitar is broken? Never even really got a straight answer around that one. And then
we're hiding it from him.
And then, like, every once in a while, you'll get someone will bring you I got this for free. Make it play right. Okay. Free is not always free. It's rarely free. And then how do you have sometimes it's a really easy conversation. Like, the repair will cost more than what you paid, and oftentimes what you paid plus the cost of going out there and buying a quality instrument.
Mine to Jason is saying that it's hard to start something. I started with poetry before music. Got a lot of validation from people who liked my poetry, and that made me believe in myself a little bit more. Now I'm in school for music. Great. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's the way to go. That's, you get that validation, get a little bit more confident, and then you go after it. I love it.
So tell me
he's so new to everything that I know it's going to take years. Yeah,
it's all right.
You know what? It's worth it.
How do you want to spend your years?
Yeah, exactly.
But talk to me about the people who liked your poetry that gave you validation, and tell me about how you interpret, like, is there a difference to you about the validation you get from somebody that you know in somebody that you've never met before. Because sometimes, sometimes you have to interpret the validation, right? If your mom tells you that she loves what you're doing, like, she's going to tell you that no matter what, right? And sometimes a person that you love is being so incredibly brutally honest with you, but it's actually hard to see that because there's implicit bias, even though that bias might not be there.
Right. And then there's the validation that you may or may not get from somebody with a reputation, someone that you look up to or that you idolize, that may or may not give you good feedback.
Yeah.
It may come off as them being brutally honest with somebody they don't know, or something like that too. So
sometimes, in fact many times, we have to do things without validation. Like, who are you actually doing it for?
Yeah it's funny,
It's got deep really fast.
It's funny how, to kind of circle back to what we were talking about earlier with
open mic Zoom, and it was for creative people on Instagram with bipolar disorder, which I have. We were strangers at the start of the open mic, and they felt like family. Yeah, very cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Kind of to loop around back, I found out on Saturday night that the bass player for Red Fang, he and his wife, because she's also in a bunch of bands. She's in Helmsley and Tacos and a bunch of bands, and they've been, because of the pandemic and all the bands kind of got shut down. They weren't doing anything. Well, they're married, they're coupled, they're living together, so they're started doing music just for themselves because they couldn't do their other projects. And now they've got a little group. They've played some shows around just the two of them as well, but
I'm gonna lean back now.
Yeah, might as well get comfy.
But show people my ugly dogs.
It's interesting that when you do something for yourself, or for the people that you love, like it's different than getting that validation externally.
Yeah.
Especially with music. I mean, we've talked about it so many times. It's such a personal thing. And as much as, musicians share their music with the world, really, their fans and anybody that's within earshot, it really is a personal thing. And most musicians are making the music that they make for themselves and sharing that piece of themselves with the world. It's really what they're doing.
Yeah.
So getting that validation externally can be difficult at times. And if you don't get that validation externally, it can be crushing. I think that's why you end up with a lot of like artistic people and creative people that have mood disorders and other mental disorders, depression, anxiety, all that kind of stuff, because you are literally giving a piece of yourself to the world.
Yeah. On that note, I should also say, I appreciate Mind Adjacent, and I appreciate you opening up. Like, you've been participating a lot in this, and
we definitely appreciate
being
that.
really vulnerable in the conversation as well. So, like, I know that's not easy. So, thank you for that.
Most of my creative life has been for me opening up to other people, and actually performing for the first time in my life changed everything for me and made me know I need to work harder. Yeah, that's true. Mind Adjacent. It definitely does change your perspective on things, to put a little bit of yourself out there, and to it is a vulnerability. You're being vulnerable to the world.
And like we have to start where we can start. If we're later in our life and we've never done this, it's like learning a new language. Like, it's the earlier you start doing this thing, the easier it will be to gain that skill set. Our mind is more flexible and malleable and whatever, and what we do, the way we stretch ourselves, is easier when we're younger, right? You start something when you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s. It's one, it's the way your brain works, and two, you've got this very long and repetitive and cemented version of who you think you are. And so shifting outside of that is very, very uncomfortable. But, you know, I remember my 6-year-old, she did a dance recital and she was worried that she was going to fall off the stage, or worried about this or worried about that. And, you know, like the quicker you get to, if performing is the thing that you're nervous about doing for the first time, the sooner you put yourself in the situation of being uncomfortable, or the sooner you'll absolutely like either work with it or learn it, you know, learn it's for you, learn it's not for you. But uncovering those uncertainties and figuring out where they fit in your life is much easier the sooner you tackle it. It's never going to get easier by avoiding it, or delaying it. It will always be that difficult or more.
Yeah.
So just go tackle it, you know.
Tackle it. Minded Jason also said that he performed 2 songs after that open mic, and had never written songs before that first open mic, and is 37, so they get it.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dope.
Entirely. Discomfort is important to change and evolve. Of course it is. And
it is, man. Like I can't get over how many times and how many different ways we have to tell people that. And you know, like how long it took for like me to get it, and you have to, like, the comfort zone is comfortable for like nothing good happens inside the comfort zone except for like pumpkin spice lattes and cinnamon, you know, like,
and is that
you know,
really
like,
good?
Right. Is that really good? Like nothing good happens inside the comfort zone.
No.
Like burn that shit down, or maybe have a little spot on the side that you can go sit in for safekeeping. Right.
Well,
but, like,
and it's important too that, you know, that you take the time to notice the victories, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I've always had a hard time with this. Like, I don't feel like I've accomplished much of anything. And then, you know, my wife is the one that comes back to me and is like, really? You haven't accomplished anything? You've sold your CD to Russia and Finland. And, you know, like, my band has sold around the world. Now, we haven't sold very many. I'm not saying that I'm some, you know, chart-topping rock and roller over here. That's far from
they're
it.
about to put you on the flag.
I hope so. That'd be cool. I mean, I'm big in...
Gunslinger.
We're big in Germany, just like David Hasselhoff. No, but, I mean, the fact that somebody in Russia bought a CD that my voice is on, my guitar playing is on. Somebody in Finland bought that CD. So, literally, people are listening to me around the world. Even if it is only a couple people. That's something that not many people can say.
No.
And so that's something, that's a small victory, right? That's something to be celebrated. And so just getting up on that stage, writing that first song, you know, whatever it is that getting out of that comfort zone, that's doing something a little bit different, that's being a little artistic and putting that creativity out there, do it and celebrate it as a victory, regardless. I mean, somebody has listened to it, somebody has liked it, somebody's read it, whatever.
Yeah. All the good slogans become slogans because they're true, right? Just do it.
Yeah, right.
Maybe someday fret less, rock more will be a household. You know, it won't. But
Fingers crossed, man.
But hopefully it'll be a small thing that's recognized among people that started here and understood that we just tried to do something good for people.
Minded Jason is saying that we tend to not give ourselves as much credit as we deserve for every step along the way, and that's true. Yep. It's very true, especially us creatives, because we're very critical of ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, we're always our own worst critic.
Yeah.
So.
This has been a good show. This is exactly the kind of show that I had in mind when this whole thing was conceptualized. It's a difficult thing to make this sort of conversation just happen. You know, we do the best we can to plan a general structure and then come together and allow it to flow naturally. Right. But, you know, we all have our own lives, our own stresses, our own things that we need to do, and it's just hard, you know, being on 7:30 on a Tuesday, no matter what just happened at 6:55 on a Tuesday. And we talk with a lot of cool people. We speak with a lot of cool people. We speak with a lot of musicians. We hear a lot of cool music. We look at a lot of cool gear. But these are the conversations that I really wanted to happen from the very beginning. So
Yeah. Awesome.
I love this shit, especially like we had a plan, and I'm still excited to start to have our guest in 2 weeks, but I'm kind of glad it worked out this way because I don't think we would have had this conversation in 4 weeks, right?
I mean, tonight obviously we were riffing a little bit more than we normally would, but that
riff.
Again, sometimes the best things happen by accident, right? Mind Adjacent says that being real is difficult in a system that elevates what's fake. That's also very true, especially in the music industry. I mean, there's so many musicians out there that are not actually musicians; they're more performers. Yeah. And not to say that performing isn't also an art. It's just calling yourself one thing when you're not.
So what's wild about a lot of this, and I think it's probably something we should write down and actually have a conversation and talk to producers and songwriters, is because yes, I agree with what you're saying about a system that's fake. I think that's true. But I think much of what we sometimes perceive to be fake is fake only through one lens that we're looking through, right?
Right.
We look at a performer and we learn that somebody else has written the song, somebody's produced, or maybe we think that it's quote unquote overproduced based on our tastes, and we say this is fake. And on the other end, we talk about what it takes to be a songwriter, how successful you can be as a songwriter, how good you can be in the studio in production.
Right, they're different facets of the industry. And these
folks are being as real as they can possibly fucking be. But we're appreciating it we're judging it from the performance side and not necessarily giving the cred to the badasses that are doing some amazing work, right? So it's a two-sided conversation, and it's not really like bad or good or right or wrong. It's just two very different, four very different things that are happening. But what lens are you looking at it?
Well, and then you can look at things like, if you maybe don't think popular music, pop music in and of itself is necessarily as high art, let's say.
Yeah, right.
So you look at somebody like Lizzo, right? She's a pop singer. She's doing her thing. I think she's wonderful for the body positivity. I don't want to listen to her music because it's not my style.
Sure.
But you
recognize there's a place for it.
There's a place for it, and I never really thought much of her as an artist or musician until she picks up a flute and people start giving her shit for being a fat black girl twerking with a flute. This famous ass flute. I could give two shits about that. I heard her play the damn thing in the museum that she was allowed to look at it and pull it out from. Jesus Christ, she's like a virtuoso flute player. Yeah. Like, she's a flautist, like, for real. Yeah. I would have not known she was an actual quote-unquote musician.
I actually ignored all those headlines. Now I want to go back and see what it's all about.
Dude, go watch. I mean, it's not a video of her on stage twerking with the flute or anything. Yeah. But she's got the crystal flute and she's playing some classical shit in the, the marble hall of the museum where it's housed. And it blew me away. I mean, I had no idea she was such a flautist.
Right, okay. It's social media and algorithms that I'm 100% with you on that. And I didn't think you were criticizing, I promise, I didn't think you were criticizing artists. I was really just, I know that is something that some people do say of artists, not necessarily you. But yeah, you're right about the algorithms, it's wild,
It's like social media and algorithms that elevate inauthentic behaviors. I'm not criticizing artists. Music is subjective. No one is inherently bad.
No, you're good. I took your comment in a positive way. But you're absolutely right about the algorithms and like a month ago there's still that freaking video out there where I was changing a pickup, putting in one guitar and another guitar, and it didn't hardly get any views until some dude started starting shit about how it was such an incredibly stupid pickup to be putting in a Gibson Les Paul, which led to just this
Which, by the way, that was the customer asked for it, so he did it.
And it sounds
like,
badass, but there was this volleying of horse shit back and across the fence, and I wasn't going to contribute to it in like a negative way because I have my reputation to think about, but I was happy to kind of like participate in an educational way and watch other people make fools of themselves. And what happened is it twisted up the algorithm, and then before I knew it, it had it's like 150,000 views on it right now, just because people started arguing about what Duncan pickup was replacing a bare knuckle and an Epiphone Les Paul.
So is that the idea that no press is bad press?
I don't know, but it's letting the out like what's popular, like somebody can go out there and they can, I don't know, like TikTok, Instagram, like look at the videos that have got 57.1 million views and tell me that they're substantive. Thank you. Yeah. And then go look at the artists that are trying to use that same platform to show something that's absolutely beautiful and amazing, and tell me why they only have 2,000 views.
Yeah.
And it's because you didn't use the right hashtag. It's because you didn't have an argument. It's because you didn't put the right trending music over it. It's because, I mean, yeah. You make awesome points. Mind adjacent.
Yes, certainly. And we appreciate the conversation.
Absolutely.
The algorithms are inhuman, and that is dangerous for humans trying to live their lives online.
Yep.
We lose something. That's entirely true. And that's kind of goes back to the thought earlier about having the virtual concerts versus in person. I don't think you're ever going to lose the in person, the quote unquote hybrid model. Maybe there's a show that's streaming. It would be kind of so that people can see it from home as well as see it in person. That might be the wave of the future, but I don't think it's kind of like paper, right? Paper's never going to fully go away. There's always going to be something paper that's got to be mailed out to you or whatever in some way, shape, or form. I don't think anything's ever going to be fully 100% digital because of that. Same in music. I don't think there's enough people that don't want their music digital. They want a vinyl record, and I'm seeing it a lot more in the younger generation too. They want the physical music experience as well. So it's, I mean, we'll never be fully online, I don't think. There's always going to be something that's going to pull us back into the real world. And eventually, I think we're going to have to learn how to live somewhat straddling both lines.
Well, I think it comes back to the one thing that humans do the worst, and that's balance. We're
going to go one way, we're going to go the other.
Up until 2019, we were trying to tell people to, turn off the video games and go outside. And then for 2 years, online is all we had.
Right.
And now we recognize that, like this, the younger generation right now that refuses to take jobs because they recognize that they can easily make $60,000 a year by monetizing something and making money on YouTube, and they're choosing to not get jobs. And the older generations are saying they're lazy. Like, no, they're not lazy. They're smart. Right. And they figure it out. But it's not all that. It's, how do we do things in balance balance?
And that's another part of the younger generation now too. They're finding that work-life balance is more important.
Yeah.
So they are still getting outside when they can and getting together with their people and all that kind of stuff, even though they quote live online. Yeah.
Well, and defining work-life balance, I think a lot of people have gotten out of the practice of using work-life balance because we realize that the way we use work-life, it's like kind of like when people say pro-life, and we're like really pro-life just means pro-birth. But if you actually if you were pro-life in the way that, I would like for people to be able to say they're pro-life in the way that pro-life is actually pro-life, quality of life.
Right.
Where, but
where there's still a choice.
Work-life balance really just ended up meaning, learn how to balance your life so that you can work.
Yeah.
Rather than it actually being, calling it out as the seesaw that it actually is.
Well, and that's and we work. So we work our lives away for someone else. And so I'm incredibly humbled to be in your presence doing what
Shut the
you're doing
fuck
and shit. Like, I'm inspired by you because of that. Like, really, honestly,
Oh.
because you're doing something for yourself, and it's
I
something that
appreciate
you
that.
really enjoy doing. It's your passion.
But I promise there's fear on this side too.
Oh,
Lots
I-
of fear.
Nothing worth doing is ever done without fear.
Right. What do we got here? It takes discipline, and that's hard to train without a lot of work.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
It's true, and balance is everything.
What was that question that you asked me when we were doing the Colbert 15?
It's the Colbert questionnaire.
The Colbert questionnaire. Is exercise worth it?
Is
And my
exercise
answer,
worth it?
my answer to you was
It depends.
it depends. And I think that applies here. It see results over time, and the same is true of discipline. And I talked about this several weeks ago about how sometimes it isn't drive and motivation that is going to drive the car every time. Like drive and motivation and inspiration is what's going to light the fire, but you cannot depend on that every single day. Sometimes you just have to get up and do it to carry you to the next wave of inspiration, right?
Right.
So, and that's why discipline is truly. There's a triangle. I'll have to
Right.
post that. It's not up there. It's not.
Not that one.
No, it's
Three
not that
levels?
one. No, there's like this. No, it's like there's like these levels to like get from like the conceptualization of the idea to execution, like what to get from conceptualization to execution, and why do we always die halfway up? And it's because you come to a certain point, and this is no like the inspiration and the motivation is no longer enough to carry you through to execution. That's where the discipline pulls you through the next 3 steps.
Right. Thank you, Mind Adjacent. We appreciate it. He said that we are inspiring, and we really care, and that matters the most.
I think that's
Appreciate
like the one truest thing about everything that's going on here. You know,
That's
yeah,
what
we do
hope
care.
to.
We do care.
We hope to put that out there.
Yeah. Thanks for seeing that.
So we appreciate that, and of course, we're hoping to put out.
We're hoping to put out.
share a lot of good music and good equipment, and
Yeah.
create.
Yes.
Create.
All right, YouTubes. It's 8:48.
Yeah, I'm surprised you were worried that we wouldn't
I
have
thought we
half
were
an
gonna-
hour's worth of.
I thought we were going to go a half hour.
material,
It's
so-
it's just been a lot going on, and what's weirder about like a lot going on is I realized I've gotten to this place. And I don't know if it's polyurethane fumes or if it's just being allowed to work from the other side of my brain more often than this side. My short-term memory is fading fast.
Really?
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I mean, not like in a dementia sort of way. It's just like I actually have to write things down now and
You've just got a lot more going on.
talk to people in my
your
life.
personal-
Like, one of my biggest strengths and curses at a previous point in life was my ability to just recall information. It burned relationships I had to the ground because I would just people thought I was keeping track, and I wasn't keeping track. It was just there.
Mm-hmm.
And now I've kind of like swung the other way, and so yeah, I know it's been a busy week, and I just can't even, aside from like homecoming, and it's just hard to remember what I've done. This is why I write things down now. I think I'm gonna like start measuring and mapping life by what guitar are you on.
Yeah, that could be one way to do it.
Yeah.
Well, Minded Jason, we appreciate all the comments and the conversation that we've been having. Of course, we'd love to have more conversation from more of our followers and viewers, so don't forget to comment, add questions, join the conversation at any point in time. We're here. We want to talk.
Yeah. In 2 weeks, October 18th, the Olympia Guitar Company.
Yeah.
2 weeks after that is November 1st, and we have Olympia rock band Rented Mule. And if you've seen the Instagram and seen the awesome pink guitar,
Ah, yes.
you will probably see that, because this
The Pink Floyd.
the Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
It is the Pink Floyd. This will be the second live band feed we will have done. So,
Nice.
yeah, we'll have to flip open that side of the tech manual and go back to the notes on how to do that feed right. Yeah, because we're going to be pushing a live band out through Backstage onto YouTube, just like we did with Los Ocupados. What's after November 1st? November 15th, right before I go to Mexico, we'll have Tony Delicio, amazing Seattle area guitar player originally from Alaska. He's got a new project he started up recently. He's also doing like amazing graphic design stuff. He works for a company that like does video game character creation and animation.
Nice.
And super, super excited to bring him on this show. And I don't have December up in front of me, so we're just going to talk about October 18th, November 1st, and November 15th.
Sounds good to
Maybe
me.
we'll try to do some fun Halloween stuff in the meantime.
Yeah.
Show us your costumes, musical or otherwise. Tag us on Instagram.
Get that stuff to us. Maybe we'll have a reveal of some of the best on November 1st before talking to Rented Mule.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
Join us next time, 2 weeks. We'll see you then.
Fret less.
Rock more. See you guys.
I need to get better at our closeouts. All right. Peace.